I was born to be a footballer.
I think you did all right.
Yeah, but it was also in those days not an issue for the BBC. But I used to say to them, stop worrying about the Daily Mail.
Yeah. So no, there's a parallel universe where you could have been working for Paul Dacre at the Daily Mail. I mean, that's the first proper plan you've had, really. Before I invite our guest onto the stage tonight, I'll say a couple of things in front of you that I would be a little bit embarrassed to say in front of him. It's weird having heroes when you do what I do for a living, when your job is essentially to take pot shots at people, always authentically and honestly, but it's also really nice having heroes. And when you have someone in public life who goes from being a hero in one format to being a hero in another, and then in another, it's quite extraordinary when you get to know them personally. I used to joke that the right wing has about 500 stormtroopers, all household names, all the columnists, all the newspapers, all the owners, all the broadcasters, and the centrists had Carol Vorderman, me, and Gary Lineker. I'm not sure that's funny anymore. Carol was my guest last year on Full Disclosure. She, of course, has stepped back a little bit from public life or from some of the jobs and some of the work and some of the profiles that she was doing. So there's only us two left now, it sometimes seems, which is just one of the many reasons why I am... actually, one more thing before he comes on. I know my wife, Mrs. O'Brien, is here tonight. I'm among friends, so I can call her by her real name, Lucy, and I know that she's already thinking that I have taken the jacket to the dry cleaners and not the trousers. So that it's no longer a suit. And she is already thinking, I'll tell you now, she's saying, why didn't you wear that nice one that I bought you for Christmas? That nice deep blue, that nice navy blue corduroy jacket that I bought you for Christmas. To which the answer, darling, is that Gary Lineker is wearing it tonight. Not the same one, but goodness me, I look like I'm dressed in the Temu version of his suit. And when he walks onto the stage, you will see that I'm not exaggerating one jot. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Lineker. You see? Thank you, welcome. Are you all right on that side? Because you're used to sitting on this side, aren't you? Are you going to be all right there?
Oh, don't put me off.
Because I'm asking the questions. That's how it goes tonight. What are you doing with your Saturday nights at the moment?
Enjoying them.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm making the thing of either going to a football match or going to try some really nice restaurants somewhere in different places of the country.
Lovely.
So I'm making a special effort to not just sit at home and wait for Match of the Day to come on.
Which the rest of us still do, although of course
I watch the repeat in the morning.
Yes, it's not quite the same. It's going to be a slightly different edition of Full Disclosure from usual because there's you lot are sitting in the room with us. But as you know, the format generally goes through the sort of life and times of people, and then it has a little look at the end, often at whatever it is that my guest is there to promote or to plug. So it's a testament to what a top bloke Gary is that he's not here. You're not here to plug or promote.
Nothing.
No, nothing at all.
Nothing.
Although you were eating crisps in the green. Yeah. I didn't know you were going to do that.
He didn't know I was going to do that.
I didn't know you were going to do that.
But I did, because there were some questions written by members of the audience, and one of them included, and I spotted it because it was on the top. It said, what's Gary's favourite flavour of crisps? So I thought to myself, I actually already had dinner and I ate most of the packet because I couldn't fit it in otherwise. So I thought I'll keep that in the pocket because obviously it's salt and vinegar. So that's answered that question.
Obviously.
So that seemed like a better joke this way.
So we'll begin at the beginning. When did it first become? Well, when did you first feel that you wanted to be a professional footballer? Because your dad was a market trader in Leicester, and all those...
As soon as I realised how hard he worked, so I thought, before I can remember, James.
Really?
Footballer or cricketer? I honestly thought I had much more chance at cricket. I was tiny when I was when I was a kid. Well, most kids are tiny, but compared with people of my same age. So I didn't really believe that I would be physically strong enough or big enough to play at that kind of adult level. But I eventually spurted when I was 16, 17. I was quite late to puberty, which was pretty embarrassing. I used to hide in the showers at training and everything. It was just dreadful. But I was good at cricket, and I honestly thought I had a much better chance at cricket. But in the end, it was one or the other. I wanted to do one or the other. And football, the opportunity of football came along first.
And so the people around you didn't squash your dreams then? I mean, people, your parents, your family spoke about it and spoke about you as if it was a plausible ambition, a realistic chance.
It's funny. I lost my dad about 7 years ago, and he was incredibly supportive. Always. He had the market van, and he used to drive the team in the back of the van with no windows. We used to be knocking around everywhere. I don't think health and safety these days would have approved, but he was incredibly supportive. But I remember one of my last conversations with him, and he was talking about my career, and it was actually the first time he ever said to me that I love you.
Really?
Which, because he was on his deathbed, and I started crying. I had to go out, and then a lift full of nurses opened, and I was like, "Oh God!" So it was a bit, but it was beautiful. And the other thing, he was talking about my career, and I said, "Did you ever think I had a chance?" He went, "I always knew." And I said to him, "You could have told me," because I was surprised by everything that I achieved on the pitch.
So he wasn't a demonstrative man?
Not at all. I didn't pushy at all, but just supportive in the right way as parents. I mean, one of my absolute pet hates are parents on touchlines. I've got 4 boys of my own that I went through it with. They're all adults, and none of them are footballers. They're keen sportsmen and stuff, but it's probably better they're not. And parents' behaviour on touchlines, the way they shout their own kids, and it just doesn't help them. If anyone got kids playing, just let them play. Don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Just applaud when something good happens. That's all you need to do. So I used to hate that, but I watched them play. So, and my dad did the same, but he was never pushy. He just, there was only one time that he did that, and that was when I was about 15, and I think I was given offside about 3 times, and I knew I wasn't.
Of course you weren't.
No, I know when I was offside and when I wasn't. I swore at the ref. I said, "Fuck's sake," or something like that. And my dad walked onto the pitch and grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, said, "You never, ever talk to a referee like that," and took me off. And that was a lesson.
Wow.
That was the most embarrassing thing ever. And maybe one of the reasons I never got a yellow card.
Yeah?
I was too terrified that my dad might have a pop on.
Getting home.
Yeah.
Sheesh. So you must have had extraordinary self-belief then, yourself.
No.
What was
no,
it?
And that is genuinely true. I always, every level I kept going towards, I always scored goals. I scored an amazing amount of goals when I was a kid. I think one season alone at school in Sunday League, I scored 160. And it was there was a piece in the paper about it, but that was school football. And then I went to Leicester training on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then they took me as an apprentice, and then I went and played in the reserves at Leicester in the reserves, and I thought, Christ, this will find me out. But these bloody blokes, they're adults, they're blokes, and I was still a kid, but I still scored. And then I got in the first team, and I was there sitting with my heroes all around me. And I was like, what am I doing here? I'm never going to cope with this. And actually, my first game, I was so bad. It was awful. But I did start scoring at that level as well. And then, even when I went to England, I remember saying to myself, what the hell am I doing here? I was like...
So you're waiting for the spell to break almost, the goal scoring. It's an indisputable currency. No one can argue with goals, but when that stops, it's all over.
Yeah, that's it. But whatever level it was, it kept happening the same.
So that probably explains your humility then, doesn't it? In that you were constantly pinching yourself rather than, if humility is the opposite of entitlement, you've just unwrapped.
Yeah. Maybe, because I don't know what the alternative would feel like, so it's hard to say whether it helped my career or maybe I'd have been even better if I'd have actually really believed I was good. I
think you did all right, mate.
Yeah, I did all right.
I
did all right.
Was there a plan B? I mean, or was
cricket?
Yeah, but I mean, apart from professional
Journalism.
Journalism.
I used to write match reports when I was a kid.
Good Lord.
So it went full cycle in the end. That's where I ended up, obviously, a form of journalism.
And that was genuine. I mean, local paper or...
I used to write match report. Used to go and watch Leicester play, go home, write a match report.
Really?
Not a very good one, but...
Crikey. So there's a parallel universe where you could have been working for Paul Dacre at the Daily Mail as
Thank fuck that never happened.
So I mean, I presume you worked hard at school, though, even though you were putting most of your eggs in the football or the sports basket. No?
I wouldn't say I was great at school. I worked hard at the subjects I liked.
Okay.
Which is, I think, probably like most kids. I was good at English, good at maths. Anything else? Geography I quite liked. Generally, I think you like the subjects that your teacher's good at.
Yeah,
we had a terrible history teacher. And I really like history now. I mean, the rest is history, just a something.
Isn't it? Isn't
One
it
of my favourite podcasts, funny enough. But we had an awful teacher. So, yeah, but I wasn't... I used to hate doing homework. I just wanted to go in the garden and play football.
Yeah, always.
Cricket.
Constantly.
Yeah, constantly. That's all I wanted to do was play sport. No interest in anything else. If I hadn't... there were times when I look back, I thought, Christ, if you hadn't have made it at football, you wouldn't have given yourself a chance to have been a journalist and stuff. Of course, didn't try hard enough at school.
Yeah, and I mean, there were never any moments when you looked like you were going to find out. I mean, as you say, this trajectory was pretty steady once you got...
Yeah, I was lucky. I didn't get any injuries or
on the books at Leicester. It was obviously not plain sailing, but no massive injuries early doors or anything like that.
No, I'm really lucky with injuries. Really lucky.
Was there a mentor? Are there people? Because I'm glad you didn't name your history teacher. But on the other side of the coin,
can't remember his name.
Good. On the other side of the coin, were there people that did play a massive role? Obviously, your dad. But were there people that played a massive role in building you up as a youngster?
There was a guy called George Dewis who was a great goal scorer himself from way back now. He died a long, long time ago. But he used to train the youth team and the reserves at Leicester. And also when I went as a schoolboy after school, go to training Tuesdays, Thursdays. And he was a striker himself and he only did finishing, which was amazing. It was crosses and this and runs and one-on-ones with goalkeepers and shooting from the edge of and it was like, that's all we ever did. It was hopeless for like midfielders or defenders, but brilliant for strikers and goalkeepers. So... And it's one of the reasons that I stopped enjoying training the further I went in the game, because we never did that again. And all I ever wanted to do was practice my art. So he was absolutely instrumental in my career. The other one would be Jock Wallace, because I was so terrified of it that I would never go out for a drink or anything. Because he used to, he was a huge guy, big Scottish guy. I mean, I remember the first time he came down. I think I was about 17. I was playing the reserves, and he came in on a midweek night, and he just signed. And it was half time, and he came in the dressing room. And as he walked in, he was huge, like 6'4". He only just squeezed through the door, and he had this incredibly strong Scottish accent that. Couldn't really understand what he said, but it was you English thing, you little shite, you lazy fucking you. And I looked at him and he was looking at me. Oh. And I went, oh my God. And he came over and he picked me up. He got me against the wall, against the wall like this, old school. You can't do that now. Picked me up and he was going, you lazy wee fucking English shite, you yank. And I was going, I thought, my career's over. So I wouldn't have minded, but we were 2-0 up and I'd scored both. True. So In the second half, I was terrible. And at the end of the game, he came in, he went, Lineker, my office, 9 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh, God, he's going to tell me I'm out, I've gone. So I turned up about 8:30, sat outside like a naughty boy outside the headmaster's office. And I waited, and 9 o'clock came, and he went, laddie, in you come. So, sit down. So I sit down like this, and he goes, sorry about the accent, this is only Scots.
Sorry, it's good. So, it's good.
So he went, I just want to say one thing to you. You were magnificent last night. And I went, I beg your pardon? He went, I just want to make sure you keep your feet on the ground.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he gave me this whole lesson about, he said, I thought I had a chance, and that if you live properly and don't fall into the traps that lots of players will fall into, and I was so terrified of him that I hardly went out, ever.
Yeah. When did you start framing actual ambitions? Because as opposed to just wanting to survive, to play another day, when did you start dreaming of winning an England cap? Or you were in the second division when you broke through into the first team with Leicester, were you? Or?
Played 1 or 2 games in the first division, and then 1 or 2 games, and we were up and down Yo-Yo Club Leicester. Well, still are now, but in a bigger way.
Been a little bit further up.
And further down. So, yeah, I don't think there was ever a given moment.
Was there not?
But I started scoring regularly in the old second division. I think I was second highest scorer. And the next season I was top scorer in the second division. And then I started to, I think there was a bit of belief coming then that I could actually knew what I was doing a little bit and I could finish. And then we went into the first division, we got promoted. We lost our first 7 games and we stayed up. And I finished top scorer won my first golden boot, top flight golden boot. So then, but even then, even this is madness, because then I go to Everton, I score 40 goals, and I go to the World Cup, and I finish the top scorer in the World Cup. And I'm thinking, this is like mental. Yeah. No, genuinely mental. What's that? How is this happening to me? And then we played the next few months later. We played at the Bernabeu against Spain for England, and I was at Barcelona at the time, and I hopped over on the plane, and I was so going. And I scored 4 goals, and we beat them 4-2. And I remember running back to the halfway line, and Brian Robson is next to me. And I went, and it was a weird thing to say. I just said, Robbo. He went, what? I went, why am I so fucking lucky? And he went, fuck off. But it was genuine.
I can see both your points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just tell us about the call coming through for your first cap. When...
Oh, it was amazing. That was actually, I was a late call-up because it was England-Wales and we were playing in Wrexham. And it was, it must have been a Monday afternoon. And the phone went, my mum answered it. And I was at home after training and she said, it's Gordon Milne, who was the manager that took over after Jock Wallace, who's a lovely, lovely guy. And also hugely influential. And she covered the phone. She said, Gordon Milne. I thought, what have I done? Immediately I'm thinking, oh God, what have I done? And I walked over and he went, Gary, I said, yeah. He said, come to the club. He said, first of all, pick up a toothbrush, come to the club, collect your boots, and drive yourself up to Wrexham. Bobby Robson's been on the phone, you're in the England squad. And I was a mixture of ecstatic and terrified. Yeah. Terrified at the fact that, how the fuck do I find Wrexham? I mean, it's not like nowadays. There were no ways back then. So I got in the car, and also the other horrendous thing was in those days, players that you started to get a bit of a name, you get a sponsored car, but have your name written all over it. And I had a deal with Fiat, and I had a Fiat Uno. A red one with my name, Gary Lineker drives Fiat Uno, on the side, all over the side. I had to drive into the car park at Wrexham in this car. It wasn't the worst thing that happened to me in that car.
it's a reminder, of course, of how much the money has changed in the game. Because you'd have taken that car because you wanted it and you needed it.
Yeah, I was on. When I left Leicester, so that was in the same last contract, was 400 quid a week.
It's incredible, really, when you think about it.
Yeah,
isn't it?
The difference. Yeah.
My godfather was a football reporter on the News of the World, and he would have household name footballers who were on the slide, who would be ringing him up, hoping for a couple of hundred £100 to give him some paragraphs for Sunday's paper. And now, people, no one needs lessons from me on how much money football players earn. The emotions of it, I know you've said in the past that you score a goal for England. In one sense, your life has peaked. That's not a feeling you're ever going to be able to emulate or relive in any other context. And I know...
Well, 48 times.
Yeah. So you score a goal for England 48 times. And those are obviously moments that you're never going to be able to... No, I mean, as you wheel away from the goal in that minute, Douglas Adams, the writer, has a line about euphoria, really, when you're in the zone as a writer. He says you throw yourself at the floor and you miss. You kind of soar off into this magical universe. There's nothing like that.
There really isn't, and it's the one thing you can't replace. Yeah. But also, you don't necessarily miss it, because the reason it was so magical was that you never knew that it would happen again until it happened. Wow. And it's hard to do. People say, what's it feel like scoring a goal for England? Right. So what does it feel like when you're watching England playing a World Cup and someone scores a goal? Well, it's like that times 20. It's like an explosion of joy and relief, and it's just incredible. It's impossible to describe. I had a conversation with Michael Owen not long ago, and he's in the horse racing game, and I said, does it compare with one of your horses when they win a big race? He went, no. Oh. No, nothing does. But again, I'll say, is it something that I miss? But not really, because
of course,
it's not going to happen.
Some players do. No, I was going to try and reassure you, but that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Yeah. When did you start thinking about what you would do next? Because a lot of footballers, of course, don't, and that is where a lot of the bad stories have their genesis.
I was encouraged. I had a very good agent, John Holmes, who's been with me a long time, and he was very keen for me to think about what I wanted to do after I finished playing. I talked to you about the fact that I used to write match reports, journalism. I was very interested in the media. Even when I was mid-20s to late 20s, that's when I started. I used to sit with the journalists when they wrote their match reports. You certainly wouldn't do that with a lot of journalists now.
Good know.
And sit with the radio people, and I always used to volunteer to do the interviews for TV and stuff like that, because I thought to myself that that's where I wanted to head. And punditry was just starting to become a thing. But I also thought to myself, I was a cricket obsessive. And at this stage, latterly in my career, David Gower was starting to present cricket. Sue Barker was doing tennis. And I looked at football and I thought, why isn't there a footballer that's been at the top? I mean, there's Bob Wilson, but he's a goalkeeper, so it doesn't really count. But Bob's great. I love Bob to bits, and he's an excellent broadcaster. But I thought to myself, if I could crack the difficulties of learning to present, rather than be a pundit, it might give me more longevity.
Okay. That's quite thoughtful, isn't it? I mean, it's a proper plan.
But again, through help from advice from my
But that's the first proper plan you've had, really, in the course of this conversation.
Well, I'm just planning to get to the end of this conversation.
What I mean is that the football just happened quite organically, whereas this is a mission.
I would say I was born to be a footballer. I was born to be.
Right.
I was born to be in the box. Yeah. I think I learnt to be on the box.
Very good. You've used that line before.
And this one I've used as well. Soon I'll be in a box.
So, I mean, did you have to bash doors down, or were people quite encouraging when you decided to make the move?
No, I get a lot of letters from people saying, how do you make it into media?
Of course.
And probably give the same advice as anyone else. Work really hard, send letters everywhere, try maybe local radio, hospital radio, things like that. Blah 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 blah. Or score loads of goals for England. Because that's how I got in. Because given an opportunity, I was punditry for a couple of years first, but I used to sit alongside Des Lynam, and I was always asking him stuff. And because I was keen to learn.
And you can tell, can you, when other players are in the studio, who's going to be all right as a pundit and who isn't, pretty quickly?
You can tell generally by their attitude, because pretty much all of them really understand the game. But it's not enough just to understand the game. You've got to understand how to broadcast, and it's not easy talking over a 60-second clip of 4 clips of defensive organisation, and it's not an easy thing to do. So you've got to work just as hard as that as you do at football.
It's not easy to read auto cue, actually. I mean, it's harder than it sounds.
It takes a bit of getting used to, that's for sure. So in some ways it's easier without.
Yeah.
Because you don't
see your pants, you can't kind of.
Well, you just talk. You can just talk. But one
God
thing
knows what that's like, Gary. One
thing happened to me once on Match of the Day. I was going away, and there was this. We were about 7 games in, and I've got my script in front of me, and so the real to cue comes. It's quite a long link. I can't remember the 2 teams that were playing, but we got halfway down the link, and it stopped. And that's happened a lot of times. Yeah. So just as it stops, it's fine. You just pause. You start to look to your script. You've got your words there, because I couldn't remember which bloody game it was, because we'd already done 6. So I'm starting to look down to read, and then I see it moving again. So I look up, but it's moving backwards. And it completely threw me. And I just thought, when in doubt, share it with the audience. And I just said, the auto cue's going backwards. It's really weird.
Yeah,
but it is. Yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to. But.
So the segue was quite painless, but you don't get a moment. Some footballers do. You didn't have a kind of grand denouement, did you? There wasn't a sort of big farewell. You're playing in Japan at the very end.
I did quite a big farewell in Japan.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to get rid of me.
big in Japan. It was. You did.
I used to go back to corners. I know this sounds terrible, but in Japan, I was always left up top.
Right.
Left happily so on the halfway line. Now everyone comes back down there, every player. I don't get it, but so I used to stay on the halfway line. I got to Japan, bring back the big man. I thought, quite liked it. Yeah. Still didn't head it. But.
So the broadcasting career takes off quite nicely. They think it's all over was quite a big part of that, because it showed a levity.
Yeah, that was also a deliberate choice from John as well.
To show that you could be funny.
Well, not necessarily show that I could be funny, but to show that it was all a little bit like goody two shoes, There's no yellow cards and all this sort of stuff. So it's nicey. So he thought it might give me an edge.
Because you would, you have an edge off the screen. You're a fun guy. You're not square. So, I mean, duck to water then. So the broadcasting career.
No, it wasn't a duck to water. I remember
Did you have nerves?
The first 2 years of presenting, I was thrown in at the deep end, and this was pre-autocue as well. And so I did Football Focus.
Right.
And I used to go in, do the show. And so many times driving home, I used to think, I'm never going to be able to crack.
Oh, really?
No, I used to get like a bit wooden and trying to learn to listen. Learn to hit a count while you're speaking, like interview someone. And then from that, go into a link, and you know what it's like, but it's just, it takes some getting used to. I'd never ever done it. So there's so many times I just thought, I'm never going to be able to do this.
And you can learn the art, you can learn the craft then in a way that you can't now, because now if you didn't hit the ground running, the internet would be full of people calling you all sorts of names.
Exactly. Having said that, my kind of learning was on BBC.
Right. Yeah, so you're
and
pretty
it
expert.
wasn't on a little satellite channel somewhere where you could learn with not many people watching. So I remember the second show I ever did was actually presenting was England versus Scotland's highlights of Euro '96, which got 11 million viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, 11 million viewers for
Incredible.
I mean, it was a big deal, that game.
Yeah.
And I didn't know there were 11 million people watching at the time, thankfully.
I suppose, I mean, this will sound a little bit odd, but given what we were saying about the Fiat Uno a minute ago, you needed another career. But footballers today who scale the heights that you scaled could hang up their boots forever and be set up for life and the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't mind sharing this. I was one of the top paid players in the world when I was at Barcelona.
Yes.
Earning something like about 320,000 quid a year, which was an enormous amount of money at the time. That's a week's wages now.
Yeah.
For a moderately good Premier League player. So it has changed. But that felt a lot at the time. But even then, it wouldn't have been enough to sustain. I mean, there's a lot of life after football.
Yeah.
A lot of life.
And there's jeopardy here then. You need to make a go of the broadcasting because, you know, there's not really a plan C. When did you allow yourself to start thinking, I reckon I could take over from Des Lynam on Match of the Day?
Well, it came a lot quicker than I thought it would. Because, well, I started Football Focus in, I think it was about, because Steve Ryder left for ITV first. And then that created a gap. I was so lucky with timing. That created a gap at Football Focus where I could learn. And then Des left for ITV. And I remember it was a Tuesday because we used to have Football Focus meetings on a Tuesday. And I was driving into Television Centre. And the security guards on the door, he said, terrible news about Des Lynam. I went, what do you mean? He went, he's gone to ITV. I went, has he? And he said, who do you think they're going to give it to? I went, ooh, I'm about to find out. And I went in and the guys that pulled me in, they said, right, you're in straight away. So, I learned a lot from Des, but I'm glad he pissed off.
And you made it your own. I mean, you really did make it your own. And you seemed very relaxed from the very start, but when were you truly relaxed?
I think it took a few. I'd already done a couple of years Football Focus, which I told you it took me a while to. And then I would say probably another couple of years to get absolutely used to the environment and feel in charge of it. So I look back now and I think, I don't like it.
Do you?
But it wasn't quite bad enough for them to ditch me. But I think, and I started to progress. And in the end, you become relaxed and you become yourself. And then people decide whether they like you or not. Ultimately, it's about likability. I think.
Yeah, and I guess the more authentic you are, then the less you're going to worry about things because that's who I am and you can take it or leave it. Yeah. Which isn't true in media dealings. We should probably have a quick word about how unwanted attention from the media goes hand in hand with the level of success that you enjoyed. And even before you started speaking your mind more publicly, you had quite a rough time from British newspapers, like almost everybody did.
It was hard to believe, but it was way worse back in.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, for footballers as well, and anyone famous. I mean, they basically trying to trap you. Yeah. Trap you into some kind of love triangle or honeypots and all this kind of thing. So you constantly So I used to get. I mean, there used to be rumours about me that I was this kind of flanderer. I used to go and mess around with her, and I never was because I was happy, and B, I was terrified of that kind of thing. So I never messed around. And then we used to get. My agent would call me when you get the call on a Saturday night. It was like, News of the World have been on. They've apparently you're the father of a child in so-and-so. And he'll go, I'm sorry, I've got to run it by. I went, nonsense. And it was always nonsense. But you get a knot in your stomach. Of course. Because if they ran that story,
It's halfway around the world before the truth has got its trousers on.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did run stories like that about people.
Yeah, not having the trousers on, yeah.
No, yes, exactly, yeah.
But it was dreadful. That side of it has changed a little bit.
Yes, it has.
And it's probably changed because of, the awfulness of the hacking and phone hacking and that, and I know, obviously loads of people, we're all done with that. So, and I remember, this was I was sitting at home, and Newsnight was coming on, and they were doing something on the phone hacking thing. I thought, I'll watch this. And they started, and they went, boom, 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 and the big 4 or 5 big banner, the big banner headlines of, it was like Prince Harry, David Beckham, blah, blah, blah. Me, right? So I've gone, what the fuck? I'm genuinely sitting there and watching. I went, oh my God, what is this? So they've got this one of the investigators who's kind of term whistleblower.
Yeah.
So he's gone through and they've gone through Prince Harry and then right, it's just whoever was presenting. So Gary Lineker, they went, yeah, he was clever. So I thought, go on. He went, we followed him for 2 years, but he obviously knew it because he led us nowhere.
Oh.
I never had a fucking clue that I was followed for 2 years. They then showed, this footage must be somewhere. They've cut to a little, he went, for example, so she was saying, how do you do? And they've got it. He's in a bush, right? Yeah. Filming me, the other side, I'm playing golf. And I'm on the tee, and how have I not seen him?
How incredible.
It wasn't a bad swing. It wasn't
I was just thinking I bet you were doing
the
that.
golf course. I was worried about my swing. It was not too bad for me. So it was genuinely gobsmacking.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. So you can't win. It wasn't that you were squeaky clean. It was that you were very clever and you were There's a great story about... I can't remember who they were, but they were camped outside a massage parlour trying to catch a very specific celebrity who never turned up. But I think Sarah Ferguson's dad did, and the poor sod ends up all over the newspapers. And no one had previously had a clue that he was...
Not a husband?
No, not a husband. He's never in the news, is he? I wonder whatever happened to him.
No idea.
So you're on this... I mean, you become at this... it's a weird phrase, national treasure, and I don't think I've ever met a national treasure who's comfortable with being described as a national treasure, but you do it twice. Yeah. You do it as a footballer, and then you do it as a broadcaster. You achieve the kind of level of success and popularity that most people can only dream of happening once, never mind really happening twice.
Oh, absolute national treasure, yeah.
Yeah, quite right.
I don't know how you answered that.
Show him your T-shirt. Show him your T-shirt.
Tattoo.
But there must have come a point, whether you were conscious of it or not at the time, where you realised you'd become part of the televisual furniture. Because they asked you to do the Olympics.
You become settled.
Yeah.
You become settled, and
yes.
And they ask you to do the big things, and which is fabulous. It's funny. I mean, I love playing football. And as I said, there's nothing like scoring a goal. But there's also a buzz about television as well. But people say, what's more nerve-wracking, presenting England in a World Cup game or playing for England in a World Cup game? And the truth is, if you mess up on TV, no one cares but yourself.
Yeah.
If you mess up for England in a penalty shootout or something, you affect people's mood for a long time. Yeah. So it's much more relaxing presenting a big show.
Of course it is. Yeah, I'd never thought of that.
You can fluff your words occasionally or ask the wrong question.
Of course.
Doesn't matter. No one notices. You think of it all
20 years later, people are going to shout it out of their car as they drive past.
Yeah,
not if it's happened on telly.
No, exactly.
TV.
Exactly.
So a bit of a faux pas on the telly. When did you start flexing your political muscles, and was it social media? I can't remember. Was that how it started?
I've always had views.
Of course you have.
But there was never a platform to use it, and then sadly there was. Oh dear, what could possibly go wrong? And I have views, and I have a bit of a sense of humour in some things, and then I blame my son George, right?
Right.
So I'm sitting at home. This is 2012, I think. So I'm sitting at home, and George is on Twitter, and he's going, I'm going, what? I said, we're watching the game, right? And I said, you're not watching the game? He said, I'm doing both.
Yeah.
I said, I went, all right, okay. What is it? He said, it's Twitter. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you just write a few things and then people like them or not, or you get a bit of a debate going. I went, well, it sounds ridiculous. And he went, no, he said, you would love it. This is what he said. He said, in fact, I went, how does it work? How does anyone know you're on there? He said, he got quite a following, George. I mean, he's up to nearly 100,000 or something. But at the time, he had about 25, 30,000 followers, which was quite big. He got in early, he was into it. And he's got a very dry sense of humour and very self-deprecating manner. So anyway, so he said to me, right. I said, how do you get it? He said, well, people, word of mouth, this and that and the other. He went, I'll bet you £5, right? If I put you on there now, he said, by the end of the night, you'll have more followers than me. I went, don't be ridiculous. And he did it, and he posted, Dad's on, here we go. And then it went somewone else, and then it went, and all of a sudden, by the morning, it was like 150, 200,000. And it was, I had to give him a fiver. Not the only fiver he's ever had.
What did you get out of it? Someone asked me this the other day, and it's hard to remember because neither of us are on there anymore. You're not, are you?
I've still got it, but it's only to post a podcast.
I don't even do that.
That's it. I'd never read anything. I don't look at it because it's a cesspit.
Precisely.
Shitter, as it changed.
It's hideous. Absolutely hideous. But back in the good old days, what did you get out of it?
You could have some chat with people. There wasn't much abuse flying around back then. You could put out your points. You talk about football going on. It was a great way, I think, of guiding people towards the things that you did. Match of the day. Yeah. BBC loved it back then. Funnily enough. And it went on for years like that. It was a lot of, you'd have a few spats, but fun spats, with whoever, and then it started to turn a bit. But I always put my political views. Always tried to be a bit careful. But it was also in those days not an issue for the BBC because until about, I can't remember the exact year, but about 2019, the impartiality rules only applied to those in news and current affairs, not to anyone else. So it was fine. And then suddenly someone goes, well, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that anymore? The goalposts were shifted massively over there. Well, what do you mean I can't have an opinion on anything anymore? Why does that, which I couldn't quite understand. I mean, you can have an opinion as long as your opinion is what they want you to have an opinion.
Yeah, or it's not an opinion that's going to upset the Daily Mail, because there were plenty of...
Well, the bizarre, this was I love the BBC. I owe it so much. And it's a brilliant organisation, and there's so much good about it. But I used to say to them, stop worrying about the Daily Mail. Yes. They're going to hate you anyway. They don't want the licence fee. They want to kill the licence fee. They want to kill everything about the BBC. Stop trying to placate them. Stop it. It doesn't make any sense.
It's a giant mouth that they're just throwing things into. It's never going to be full.
But anyway,
here we are. Did you know that because when you were getting your phone calls from your agent telling you that the news of the world, you get the only vague equivalence to that I ever had was on Saturday nights when the managing editor at LBC would ring me, and I could tell from his voice that he was about to mention something I'd tweeted about Nadine Dorries. The poor bloke. I mean, it was because she was. I mean, crikey, I know it's very hard to believe. No, she was Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, and we are a massive media company. So there were things that I shouldn't have been doing on Saturday night.
She probably needed your help to learn one or two things.
I could have probably given her a little bit of guidance on, for example, who owned fucking Channel 4 for example. But I would get those calls, and I kind of knew when I was on Twitter a lot, whether it was about her or not. I kind of knew, not always. Sometimes I was completely taken by surprise, but I kind of knew when I was pulling the pin out of a hand grenade and lobbing it into the ether. Did you?
I tried to avoid doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're cleverer than me. You're in the news world, and but sometimes I have that thing that I care. And that's when it's hard to not get involved. If you see something that's desperately wrong, it's hard not to get involved a little bit. So, I would do that sometimes. I'd get the odd little message or phone call. We're not particularly happy with this.
That begins like this, don't they?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. And I was going, well, you move the goalposts, not me.
Yeah.
There's nothing in my contract, nothing that stated that you can't use social media to, And I was trying to be careful. And then obviously I replied to a pretty venomous kind of Tuprus tech message with the thing about how comparisons with early 30s Germany.
It was pretty mild,
And
not dissimilar to that used by Germany in the 30s.
Not dissimilar. Which so fairly accurate, I would say. But
yeah, I would.
But it created a bit of a storm, and then it was.
And then you had this extraordinary silver lining, didn't you? Because I think uniquely, they suspended you and everybody else down tools as well. That must have been, genuinely, no messing around. That must have been an incredible moment for you.
That was one of the most emotional things I've ever had. Sure. I had a group chat with Alan Shearer and Ian Wright, and we were obviously chatting during that. And I said on that group chat, I've got a feeling they're going to stand me down on Saturday night. And Wrighty said, if they do that, I'm not doing the show. And it happened to be that Wrighty and Alan were going to do the show on Saturday night. So, and it's one thing saying that, but to down tools for someone else's cause, that doesn't happen.
No.
And it was Friday afternoon, and firstly, I had a lunch. I had a lunch with a couple of friends of mine, one of them being Giles Corran, funnily enough, and JD, and who was the other one? Can't remember. But anyway, we had lunch, and I got the message that they were going to drop me. So they made it publicly before they told me. Right? Nice touch.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in the restaurant. I went, look, this is going to happen, and within half an hour, Ian Wright tweeted that he wouldn't be doing the show. And I went, oh my God. Wow. I went a bit. As I'm now, whenever I think about it.
I bet.
And then 20 minutes later, Shearer did the same. And I was in the back of a cab by this stage with my mate. I was sobbing. Absolutely sobbing. That's support.
Because if they hadn't done that, you'd have still been best mates. It was not something you could have expected them
I never ever expected them to do that. And then obviously everyone else followed, and then the commentators down tools, and then it was like, wow. And then from going, I was desperately asking me to apologise, and I kept saying, I don't think I've got anything to apologise for. I genuinely don't. So no. And then skip forward 36 hours and they're apologising to me.
Yeah.
So, but, I understand how difficult it is for them and the influences that there are at the top of the BBC. But it was incredibly moving weekend.
I can't think of anything like it. No. And I do this stuff I've been following this stuff for the best part of 30 years for a job. I can't think of anything like it.
No,
that moment when it dropped and you saw these two men doing this thing of sort of public solidarity.
I love them forever.
I bet you do. There was no way back after the mistake that you, which was clearly a mistake.
God,
the mistake wouldn't have landed as heavily as it did.
I never ever felt worried during the first thing.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me because I felt I was in the right. I didn't think I was in the wrong. But the emoji I missed, that upset me because of course it was a mistake because I didn't see it. Yeah. In fact, it was up there apparently for quite a long time before anyone even noticed it themselves. And then Andy's here tonight. Works with John, my agent now, Andy, and he called me and he said there's an emoji on there. I went, oh no, really? And I I didn't really know that it was this sort of trope.
Sure.
I mean, why would you think that about fellow human beings ever?
Yeah.
But I just, put two and two together. I thought, this is bad. This is really bad.
Because it's not principled.
No. So I apologised immediately, and then I apologised again, but it wasn't enough for them. But I could have sat it out, but I thought, actually, you know what? Let's walk away.
And you did, and it meant that things ended a little earlier than you would have liked, but not in a way that casts any sort of shadow over what you'd achieved prior to that.
No, I don't think there's anyone genuinely. There might be a few people that want it to be that, but I think also, would I be that stupid?
No,
not deliberately stupid. I mean, I can be stupid, but not that stupid to have put that out there deliberately. No, of course not.
And when did you start? Having let the dust settle and licked your wounds and dealt with the change, when did you start thinking about what else you might like to do next?
Well, I was already, I had a podcast.
Of course.
Empire.
Yeah. It is actually. I mean,
so I was already doing that anyway, and then, and then other offers started to come in reasonably quickly, and so because again, I think people recognised what it was. It was just a genuine error, mistake. And so it didn't really, and the truth is now, actually, I mean, in hindsight, and I never, would have wished this, or, wouldn't say I'm glad it happened, but, as things have transpired, it's been, I've had Saturdays off for a week. I'm going to do the World Cup for Netflix in New York, whilst BBC are doing the World Cup in Salford.
Yeah.
Bizarrely.
Play nice.
Yeah. But things have turned.
What else is in the
out
diary?
right.
What else? I mean,
I've got a new series, a reality show actually, which I'm hosting.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, no. I've always been asked onto reality shows for forever, and I've always said not until Ant and Dec retire or Claudia gives up. I don't mind that. But it's called The Box, and it's a lot of fun. It is. It is genuinely something completely different. Saturday night television.
Your face changed a bit then. There's a little bit of an excitement about that. Another project. I know,
amazing.
A new challenge.
Yeah, I'm bloody pensioner as well.
When do we get to see that?
Probably, I think they're looking at very early September.
And how do you make decisions? I mean, not just now, but going back over the last 20 years, when these various offers come down in front of you, and you obviously work very closely.
Well, I always turn them down, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure.
Because I was at the BBC, and I was.
There's only so much you can do. But what are you looking for? What are the things that tickle your fancy?
Well, I like the look of this idea. I thought it was really clever. I mean, basically, for those that you wouldn't know yet, because it's not out. So there's 10 celebrities. They've got these big yellow boxes that they plonk around different parts of the country, and the celebrities are inside them, and they do not know what they're going to do, what they're faced with, or what kind of game it is until they come out the box. And it works, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to people seeing it. It's something completely different than I've done before, but it's light-hearted and fun.
I love it. What an absolute joy. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Lineker.
Thank you. Thanks, Charles.